All right, we're back here in the Rock Cave for Song of the Day. I'm your host, Mark Pierce, as usual. How's everybody doing today? Today is Thursday, June 4th. Looking back at this date in history, there wasn't a lot actually that happened in music history on this date. The biggest thing that I could find, which was by far the biggest thing, was we're going to go back to 1984. And that's when Bruce Springsteen releases his album, Born in the USA. All of us of a certain age remember when that came out. Pretty much the biggest thing to happen in music for a solid year or more. All you ever heard about was Bruce Springsteen at that point forward. He was everywhere. And for a lot of reasons. There were a lot of good songs on that album, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. On a side note, interestingly enough, today is also the 20th anniversary. Springsteen released the song American Skin, 41 Shots, his take on a shooting of an unarmed black man in New York City. So, we're going to Born in the USA. A lot of people think that that was a standalone record and kind of turned it into a big patriotic record. So there is a lot of kind of confusion about that piece of that album. As it turns out, that album was actually recorded, 3/4 of it was recorded in the same sessions as the previous album, Nebraska. So really, Nebraska and Born in the USA are pretty close to being the same album for the most part. I mean, it was recorded in 82, from 82 to 84, which was the tail end of the recording sessions for Nebraska, which was released in 82. But for a time, the songs that were being written, Springsteen was saying he wanted to actually release a double album. He didn't know what he was going to call it, but he was going to release it as a double album. So Nebraska and Born in the USA at one point was going to be a double album. So think about that, because the songs in Nebraska are kind of acoustic, more quiet songs about the struggle in the heartland, but very different than Born in the USA, which was more electric and had a lot of more rock pop songs on it. As the story goes, Bruce was very prolific writer from 77 to 84. He wrote somewhere between 150, 200 songs in that time. And so he had multiple projects, multiple albums in his head at the same exact time. And that's how you have Born in the USA, all those songs, in Nebraska. And actually at that point, when Nebraska was getting ready to be released, he was going to release a solo album without E Street Band. So he started recording some of his own stuff, demos. And he was going to put out an album. And then he ended up kind of changing gears again, wasn't liking the way it was going. So then he was going to put out an album that was a mix of some of his solo stuff and some of the stuff with E Street Band, and it was going to be called Murder Incorporated, which is famously not made record, but some of the songs that didn't make it on other albums did come through like a collective release later on. So that's interesting to see that he just had so much material and had been writing so much. I myself was introduced to Springsteen with Born to Run, like many of you. My brother had the album. I didn't listen to the whole album, so I was missing out on a lot of the songs. I had liked the song Born to Run, but later on it would be 10th Avenue Freeze Out, a lot of other songs on there that would become favorites of mine. Born in the USA, obviously a huge album. Not Springsteen's favorite. He basically says that the songs on there are some of his weakest songs except for Born in the USA. It's not his favorite material as far as writing is concerned. But let's do the numbers. 30 million copies as of 2012. One of the highest selling records of all time. Nominated for a Grammy for Best Album. And it spent 135 weeks on the charts. Obviously went to number one across the globe. 7 singles, which was, I think, tying a record from one album. think that's a Michael Jackson record. You know, something that Michael Jackson did. What were the singles? Dancing in the Dark, Cover Me, Born in the USA, I'm on Fire, Glory Days, I'm Going Down to My Hometown, right? Those are all the ones. Basically just ignited this fervor for him and just catapulted his career into the stratosphere. Introduced America to what they began to call Heartland rock, which was a huge uplift for John Mellencamp, his Scarecrow album, and the likes of Tom Petty and Bob Seger actually kind of benefited from that kind of stuff as well. The album itself is not just a big, giant patriotic album. People forget that this was during the Reagan years, and it was really written about the struggles of Vietnam vets coming back and the struggles of the working class. But that's your song of the day. Is going to be one from that album. Coming up with the right song from that album would be tough for me. I am a Bruce fan. I didn't get into his older music until much later. My favorite album by him is Tunnel of Love, which I think a lot of Springsteen fans would disagree, but that's my favorite. I think the one that holds up the most for me is going to be my song of the day, and that's Cover Me. I think Cover Me is a great song, and that's going to be my choice for today. So let's go with that. That's your song of the day. And I hope you have a great day today. And as usual, we'll see you on the flip side.